sir.
Good
From
afternoon, sir.
Acha, I had mailed you through the Nitris. Any of you have gone through that mail? I had sent a mail that is regarding the boot camp the Hawaii is going to conduct on 6th and 7th. Okay. There are some books, material, financial awards as conveyed to me by the one of the Hawaii director, who is supposed to be our ex-students of this department. And what you have to do, you can register for that boot camp. Uh, Maybe depending on your classes when you are free, it will be on 6th and 7th. I think 7th you are completely free. 7th, I mean 7th is Saturday. Is there any class there? 7th.
No, sir, we have
No, sir.
FCS class, but we can ask sir to reschedule. We can
Which
ask sir
one?
to
Which one?
FCS,
FCS.
cryptography.
Okay. Cryptography. So you see that is a boot camp because I had a good relation with Mr. Devu Naik, who is supposed to be in a very good position. He completed his masters from our department. He's the one of the boy who started working with cryptography, and his thesis one on the ECC. His present designation is the head of the cloud and AI ecosystem. So with MOU signed with Huawei, we got a lab on AI lab. I mean the hardware and others we are supposed to receive. So we are in personal touch. He heads the cloud and AI ecosystem, Dr. Debu Naik. You can check his profile on the YouTube. You can watch his video. Then he did his PhD from IIT Mumbai with a slow pace PhD. So this is a bootcamp. All the IIT and different NITs are participating. I have shared you the details, the agenda and others. Maybe it's on my mail and I had sent you the details. Maybe I'll just try to share. It will be professionally, I mean, it will be beneficial to you if you are going to attend. Justice says that there are many hours. It starts with actually from 9 a.m. on 6th November. It ends around 5 p.m. 6th November, and similarly from 9:30 to 12 p.m. on Saturday. So it's a optional things that means you may not drop a class. Maybe you are skipping. How many classes are there on Friday?
Sir, 4 and
So
an exam.
five. Sir,
Five
for
classes.
CS department, sir, it's five. CS main branch.
CS. So 5 classes. Okay.
And
Lab
And an
classes.
sir,
exam.
there is also test for ACE, Advanced Software Engineering,
Advanced
regular
software.
test.
Okay, that MCQ test.
Yes, sir.
Oh, MCQ. Okay, then no, this is just you go for the class, but I think if you are complete the registration from 9 to 9:30, then at least you can attend a session up to 9 to 10. It will be good. Then depending on your free slots, you can do that. But please do register. At least you attend the inaugural and those who can afford. And if you ask for my options, Friday, I can at least this is 1 to 2 is the lunch. So your class is from 1:15 to 2:15. Is there any class from 2 to 3? 6th
No,
November, you
sir.
check.
No, sir.
No, sir. We are free from two.
You are free from 2. If Saturday I'm going to off your class, at first you register today with NIT Arkel mail ID because Devu is supposed to call to me. He's personally also family wise is close to me. Today he called me to remind ki why not people from NIT Rourkela is registering. I say ki I don't know about the seats, that's why I could not circulate this mail. You check you check your Nitris. I have sent you the first advertisement and there is a consecutive mail where I have sent the link is there, the URL. It's a very simple. If you're looking into the day two, there is a, I mean, the first half is usually the talks and others. Maybe after lunch hour, it is very productive, it seems. From 2 to 3 p.m. there is a face detection C++ application. There is a hand-on practice because I think they are providing a virtualized environment. Then there are certain homeworks. He says that there are certain prizes are there, cash prizes is there, books are there. Maybe then they talk about Mindscore framework. And if you look into other cloud and other aspects, if they are covering any of the AI, so that I can compensate with cloud aspects. If you want, I can share my class material because I used to teach the cloud computing. So you go for the registration. Okay. So any of you can check your Netris mail and confirm if it is received.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
We
Received.
got.
Yes,
Received.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Then
So
you plan.
with college mail we should register, sir.
College mail. Sometimes they need to. I think you remember your college mail
Yes, yes, sir.
ID and password.
Yes, sir.
What I guess ki how they will identify you. Suppose they are filtering number of participants with the domain, then it may be a problem if you'll go for the Gmail and others. Okay.
Okay, sir.
So you registered and maybe what I am expecting, some people should participate in the contest. Whatever they say, no, there is some homeworks are there. So you can participate on that because the schedule shows there is some homework distribution from 3:30 to 4 p.m. So please accept some of the assignments so that you can work and you can submit. Because they have kept certain award and recognition and certificates. What he told me personally. Okay. And they are going to provide us the platform and the software. This is the, I mean, it's Asia Pacific camp. Maybe go, you can get an opportunity to listen to uh, the technical head of the AI division of the Huawei. Okay. So you try to register for that and I hope it will be fruitful. But those who have exam and others, you should not ask for cancellation of the class because it's a personal faculty's choice. But you have still you have a half day on Friday and half day on Saturday. I think that will be fruitful. Okay.
Hello, sir.
Yes, yes.
Sir, I had a question regarding our assignments. Sir, is it necessary that in all the algorithms we are told to write, we have to use array? I mean, can we not use like something else like a hash map or a linked list or a heap?
Yes, yes. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Anything you can
Okay.
use. As
Okay,
a
sir.
designer, you are free to use. As a designer, you are free to use any of the data structure because the data structure which you are using, that you are depending that this is most appropriate. So you can use any of the
Okay.
data structure.
Okay.
Tomorrow, in fact, we are going to discuss on some data structure assignments to mostly creating a class, adding different functionality. We'll be starting with a tree, of course. I mean, just sometimes I discussed all the 7 traversals. Then in addition to other functions which you think you will be using for a problem solving. Uh, so you can propose, you can use array, you can use heap, you can use linked list. Okay, all are allowed. But depending on the data structure, if you can say something about space complexity, it will be more appropriate.
Okay, sir.
Okay, we'll start with the remaining portion of the randomized algorithm. I don't have much portion to discuss on randomized algorithm. Here, I think the slide is available. Slide is visible to you. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir. Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
sir, it is.
So we were discussing the NQueen problem. So in fact, the idea is to design a Las Vegas algorithm for NQueen problem. So here in NQueen problem, what we are going to do, if it is a Las Vegas algorithm, we are expecting to take some random decision regarding the placement. When you look into this 8 queen placement problem, if you remember the conventional strategy like backtracking, uh, uh, we are coming across two type of constant, that is implicity constant and the explicity constant, which you can find all my UG level materials of the backtracking. That means if you look into this particular 8 queen problem, if you try to place the first queen, then you have a choice. Either you can number in terms of 1 to 8 or from the ABCD. You can take the column as the measure or the row as the measure. If you let us take a column as the measure, that is the column A, then you have to select a number in between 1 to 8. So that means you are going to take the help of a uniform distribution which will generate a number from 1 to 8. And once you generate a number from 1 to 8, then what you are going to do, there is a previous solution. Of course, for the column number A, there is no previous solution. But when you come to the column number B, depending on the positioning of this, you can check. This is very simple algorithm, very much similar to sorting of the, a array A with the help of another array B, or the sorting of a linear array. What we try to do whenever we try to generate a number, let us say you generate a number in between 1 to 8, either 1 or 2 or the 8 with uniform distribution, place the queen. Let it be goes to the second position. Now along again when you are in the column B, you try to generate another number in between 1 to 8. Right. If you are getting the number 2, so that these two place cannot be used. And as per the queen rule, the third place cannot be used. As per the property of this, the first place cannot be used. Right? If you, so here is the simple modification, that if you are generating a number 1, 2, 3, the algorithm terminates. Right? Because you cannot continue with the solution, because you are allowed to take the select a number once only. Now, if you are not able to not getting any number in a second column placement, that is neither 1 nor 2 or nor 3, then if any number comes, let us say from 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, you are allowed to do that because the rule permits, so you continue. Similarly, whenever you are going to select the third column, you have more constants, so the places which you are not allowed to select, okay, you can select. Eligible positions are 1, 2 is not allowed, 3 is not allowed, 4th is not allowed, and 5th is not allowed. So if you get 1 and 6, 7 and 8, you can continue. So this is a very simple algorithm. You are taking the help of a uniform random distribution to generate a number from 1 to 8. Then you have got a evaluation function or the validity which is to be checked. Okay, I have taken just a pseudocode, not exactly written in terms of that. So there may be two different type of algorithm. You have to identify which one is Las Vegas algorithm. Let us say we are looking for an algorithm and we are going to represent this each row as a vector. So here I represent, this is first 8th row is 0 0 0 1 0 0 0. Second is like this, third is like this, fourth is like this. You can say if I'll generate 8 binary strings and each is having single 1 and others are 0. Can I do that? Let us say I try to generate a random solution in linear time. Can I generate a 8-bit string with a single position as 1? Let us say I try to design a randomized algorithm. Yes or no? I try to design a randomized algorithm, a linear time algorithm. Can I generate?
Yes, sir.
So if you are generating 8 such strings, then at the end you are going to evaluate whether 8 is acceptable. Definitely 8 row or the first row is acceptable. When you accept the first row, you are checking second row. If second row the string is like this 000, I mean 5 zeros, then followed by 1 1 and then by 2 zeros, it is not accepted. So one randomized algorithm, you can say you generate 8 strings with only one as the with one position as 1, other position as 0, and at the end you evaluate. Then if you said they obey the queen game condition or queen placement condition, that can be a solution. So what type of algorithm that is? You are generating 8 strings, 8 binary string, and you assured that only one entry will be 1, right? Others will be 0. So what type of algorithm that is? This is definitely linear time algorithm. You have to place 8 queens, so the loop starts from 1 to 8. You generate, you call a function, randomized function, which will generate 8 strings. Then in the second phase, you are examining whether those 8 things can be the solution or not. So solution is guaranteed. In this linear time algorithm, solution is guaranteed.
No, sir.
No. Then what type of
No, sir.
algorithm? What type of algorithm?
Monte Carlo.
Monte
This is a
Carlo.
Monte Carlo algorithm. So why I say so, we are in the section of Las Vegas. If in a exam it is asked to write down a Monte Carlo algorithm for 8 queen problem, you are writing that algorithm. Clear? Not necessarily we are discussing under Las Vegas and the question will ask on the Monte Carlo or the Sherwood, it like that. So this is what. Similarly, try to remember if it is asked to write down a Las Vegas algorithm for 01 knapsack problem and a Monte Carlo algorithm for 01 knapsack problem, so you are supposed to write that one. Clear? Now, if you look into the algorithm for Las Vegas algorithm, here the solution is guaranteed. Now you see, if you look into this, we are checking once only. There is a breakout or there is a break statement. What I can do, I can use the pseudo notation to write it out. Just to explain, I have taken the help of this code, and this thing I have taken from a paper, and I'll share that paper. That paper actually discussed a order of n algorithm other than the randomized algorithm. And then that paper also try to simulate both the algorithms and machine. The results are there. Very small paper, 2-page paper. The implementation of a improvised Las Vegas algorithm in its comparison to linear algorithm. But complexity is linear. The complexity is linear. Now, and we are now going to make the selection as well as we are going to impose the condition. That means every chance that on second placement the algorithm will terminate, on third placement the algorithm will terminate, and if the algorithm goes up to 8 number of steps, then definitely we have a solution. Am I clear? If you are successfully going for 8th placement, then there is a solution. That means the first I have placed here, second also I have placed here. This is one of the state. So if at here I am checking the conflicting condition with column B, no conflict in column C, generating position randomly checking for the conflict, generated position randomly checking for the conflict, and generation per position. So you can define a function that will check or evaluate the position which is from 1 to 8 is possible or not. So what state you are evaluating? Any of you can remember when we say implicity constraint and explicity constraint? If you don't remember, I have to go back to show you that thing, implicity constraint and explicity constraint. It's a optimization problem. If I need to write, okay, without naming the constraint, let us say the permissible position in the column number A is 1 to 8, right? Once you use or place the queen at position number 2, the permissible position is 8 is allowed, 7 is allowed, 6 is allowed, 5th is allowed, 4th is allowed, but 3rd place, 2nd place, 1st place is not allowed. So if you design a set, the first set S1 is with 8 element, 8 position. Second set S2 is with 5 choices. So what will be similarly S3, S4 up to S8? Are you getting me?
Yes.
You are testing the valid position each S1, which is from 1 to 8. Once you place the at the position number 2, then immediately you generate S2, which is a valid position for next. Once you say the valid position is there, you can generate S3. It will be like that. So that is a constant. What is that constant? Like this, you see, you place here first position, so you are losing this particular row, you are losing the column, you are losing the diagonal. So in this way, this continuously the S1, S2, S3, S4, S8 has to be decided. So if you manage the creation of this S, it is going to help you to write down the algorithm that you have to check that the number which I am generating, if it is belongs to S2, then it is accepted. If it is not belong to S2, then the second move is not accepted. So again I repeat, so I have to create the S1 is the number of position which is permissible in column A. S2 is the number of position which is permissible in column B. S3 is the number of position which permissible in column C. So what we need to do, we start with S1 as all 8 position 1 to 8, and then gradually whenever we place a queen, we modify that to create S2. That means once S2 is created and I try to generate a number in between 1 to 8, if the number generated is not belongs to S2, then algorithm will stop. Why I say so? If you are going to write general SI and there is a loop from I equal to 1 to n, in the first iteration, you are checking the member of S1. In the second iteration, you are checking the member of S2. In third iteration, you are checking the member of S3. So in the algorithm, if you will define something called SI, and that will help you for the implementation. This is very simple. You define the SI. Once you have defined the SI, you can write down a randomized algorithm. Okay. If the particular I which is generated with a uniform distribution is not belongs to SI, then you have to stop. You can only allow the elements that are belong to SI. So you can very easily define SI and use the notation. Suppose you write the J equal to uniform, comma 1 to 8, and if the J belongs to SI, then something. If J does not belongs to SI, you terminate. If J belongs to SI, then you have to create SI plus 1. And the algorithm definitely is within a loop, it will repeat 1 to n. So this is the way the Las Vegas algorithm for the queen is to be designed. I think it will be good if you will try to write down the algorithm, or maybe next class I'll upload the algorithm with the PPT. But what I feel, you will better you take the attempt for both the algorithms, that is your Las Vegas and Monte Carlo. Now look into this. This is talks about all family of algorithm. Now if you look into the first category, these are the brute force algorithms. Mostly we'll do with the backtracking, generating all solution place. Now come to randomized algorithm. Select k rows randomly, rest k rows by the brute force. This is one type of hybrid approach. That is because of the small size problem, maybe you are doing it with a brute force, maybe small for a large size problem, you are doing it with the k rows. Once it becomes a small size, you are doing this one of the approach. Now, if you look into the top of that category, random algorithm, it says select the position randomly. Uh, then you terminate. Termination condition is that when you try to generate for all columns. So choice is yours. You can take a row, you can take column or vice versa, but easiest is if you define in terms of SI. Now, if you remember, or maybe I have uploaded those things, I'll just check, take 1 minute to check. And I think if I'll explain you, it will be better. That is the, we are talking of 701, that is the backtracking slide. Yeah, I'll just take few minutes to share that thing so that you can have a very clear concept about implicity constraint and explicity constraint. With the help of the implicity constraint and the explicity constraint, uh, yeah, this is the slide number 701. Is it visible? Slide 701.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So here you see,
Yes.
here you see we have a evaluation function or the criterion function P, which try to evaluate x1 is the placement of the first queen, x2 is the placement of second queen, si is the placement of the ith queen, if it is acceptable or not. So maybe I can first generate x1 and test if it is acceptable, I proceed. When I am looking for a selection of another xi value, which is a permissible value, then also I am testing with a function that x1 is the previous selection, x2 is the current selection. So I have a function which is known as your criterion function to evaluate. What I mean to say, you can use this particular word to write down the algorithm. It will be a better algorithm instead of writing algorithm just select in the random. If you use these three terms, one is criterion function, second is the explicity constant and the implicity constant. So we are coming to the problem is solved by backtracking requires satisfy a set of constant explicity and implicity constant. It is nothing but the permissible value. And you see, look into this problem. This is talk about explicity constant. Explicity constant are the rules that restrict each xi to take a value only from a given set. Now, if you look into the first selection, the xi is permissible from taking a value from 1 to 8. Agreed? Xi is permissible to take a value from 1 to 8. That is, to simplify that, we define a set Si. That means Xi selects the value from Si. So X1, that is the first placement on column 1, select a value from S1. There S1 is nothing but the permissible value from 1 to 8. But when we try to synthesize a string, that means my solution will be 00001. So that is either I can go for the second model xi equal to 0 or 1. Then the si is represents here the permissible value 0 and 1. This is when you are going to define it. That is the explicit constant, you are selecting 0 and 1. But when it comes to the implicity constant, implicity constant is the rules that determine which tuples of the solution space I satisfy that function. So here, this implicity constant enables that in first position, all values are there, 8 values starting from 1 to 8, that position at which it is placed. If the first queen is placed, let me tell you how the solution is a 8-bit string. So first string is x1, second string is x2, x3. So if I am selecting a position, then it will be 1, otherwise it will be 0. But the position at which I am going to do that is coming from the implicity constant. So implicity constant indirectly represented with a rule. the rules that determine the which tuple in the solution space I satisfy the function. So initially when I'll start with, my tuple has only one element, that is first selection. So the value which is permitted, that is from 1 to 8. So you can write down the randomized algorithm with help of this thing, or you define SI, or you define the binary value of selection or not selecting as a SI, which is very much similar to writing to your 0-1 knapsack problem, so that you can write down the randomized algorithm. So this is why I'm discussing. When you try to write down, people are simply says I am using a randomized value, but you can express those things in terms of constant. Okay, so maybe you can go through the details to get the things. So this is, and now come to the explanation. What is the guarantee that the algorithm is going to generate a solution? So that or the time required to generate a algorithm, or the probability of getting a solution. So processing time in case of a success, S be the processing time in case of a success. So when S is the processing time in case of a failure will be another variable E. Then we are looking into the event because we are taking the help of the random variable. So P is the probability of success. Q is 1 minus P, which is the probability of the failure. This is obvious. Now, something is happened with a probability. You are selecting with 1 by n, then you try to measure the success. You are selecting a failure and try to measure with a probability. So based on that, so you see the processing time and the time required to take in. So that actually, if you say the t is the time that you have to measure, that you want to measure the time, that will be probability of success or probability of failure. Understood? Now just look into P and Q. If something, some percentage is success, some percent is failure, the probability of success and probability of failure. So why the two item E plus T is added there? You see, when you are processing the first time, the E is the processing time for the failure and T is the time initially you set the previous time which you have spent. As the event continues, this T will be cumulative. So this expression, the time, the what time we are measuring, or the number of trials, or the percentage of the time there will be a success, can be computed with a formula T equal to P into S plus Q into failure. And the failure, we have two component of the time. E is the processing time in case of failure, and then plus previous computation takes a decision of T. So that we can rewrite the expression. Then what we try to do when we look into this expression, we try to simplify, because T is on the left hand side. So we bring the Qt term to that. Now we simplify this equation. So now this particular Q we substitute with 1 minus C, so that will be T minus T plus TP. So these two terms are getting cancelled, and with help of this PT, we try to again express this quantity. So T will be S plus P divided by Q into T. Okay, so this is a mathematical model through which we can say probability of a success. That means I am going to um, solve a 12 queen problem, 14 queen problem, and each event I am measuring whether the random number which I am generating is going to construct a partial solution or not, so that I can test with this probability. So this is the only thing you to remember on when we try to measure or estimate in advance regarding the probability of success of your algorithm. What others we can do? When you are going to measure the time, I'll be sharing a paper, then I have shared one paper, I'll be sharing one more paper. Now you look into that. What they try to do, how suddenly this particular term comes. It can be calculated that probability of a random placement is this. So now how this is possible? This is possible on a particular run. Maybe you are using a particular distribution and you try to do it and you are finding the success of the random placement is like this. That means you run the algorithm 20 times and you are finding this many times you're able to place the queen. So when You are designing a randomized algorithm. Those people who have implemented primality testing, what is being told? You take the prime number and write the randomized algorithm to test the number is prime or not. If you are finding 90% of time the random number, the prime number is reported as a prime number, so that is the quality of the algorithm. And maybe 10%, I mean, 10% of the time you are finding, even if you supply a random, I mean, prime number, the primality testing algorithm reports it's a composite number. Okay, so this may be very low. It says if you are implementing and finding this is to be very low, then that randomized algorithm cannot be used in practice. So there is a continuous challenge on randomized algorithm designer to design an algorithm where the success ratio will be high. That means every run it should produce a result. It and that result or percentage of result will be high. So then if it try to look into the number of states is possible, because this is number of states we define from the beginning, that is 114 number of states we try to examine in case of backtracking, that is all possible states to be examined to find out the best solution. But what a better algorithm or a randomized algorithm has to do, that with less number of states you try to generate a solution. So this is a comparison with randomized algorithm. So how it is possible? You have to keep this probability constant and you can calculate number of times you are visiting the states. It will be bit of tedious because you have to memorize the states which you are visiting out of all possible 114 states. Okay, and this 114 state explanation I think is discussed in the previous slide, how we are going to do it, because in the brute force we have this many of states, and by backtracking we can have 114 of the states, and out of which also we still try to reduce that one. So this is uh, the randomized algorithm. Now the Sherrod algorithm, that is, it always returns a result and the result is correct. The good example is of the Sherrod algorithm, which your randomized quicksort. I think we have discussed during the quicksort discussion that how we are going to design a randomized quicksort. I used to use a notation S with n number of numbers, or cardinality of S is equal to n, and on the selection of the pivot element, the S is divided into two sets, that is S1 and S2. Let S1 represents all the element that is less than equal to y, and S2 is the all the element is greater than, and sometimes it is greater than equal to y. Now you look into this. Is it possible? Look into line number 3. Is it possible in a quicksort, can I write like this? S1 is always less than equal to y and S2 is greater than y. Yes. Suppose there are 3 elements, 4 elements, or 3 identical element. Do you expect all are to be in the one side? Let us say you select that element as a pivot, which occurs actually 3 times in an array. Let that element as selected as a pivot. The quicksort logic, what you remember, it is less than equal to for y on left hand side and greater than y on right hand side. Is it so, or it is greater than equal to? Yes, anybody remember the quicksort? What is how you write the quicksort?
Sir, doesn't that depend on the partition algorithm? Like we can include the
Yes,
equal to
yes,
option.
yes, very good. It depends on the partition, or a typical quicksort does not say clearly whether it is less than equal to or greater than equal to. For this is the nature, because of this nature we say the quicksort is not stable. Got it? The quicksort is not stable. So if you are going to implement this logic with a partition algorithm, can the quicksort will be stable? Still you are not finding the stability. Okay, but this is the two choice. Sometimes people write less than equal to and the greater than equal to, they argue कि if there are two elements are there, I am not sure whether it will be left of that or the right of that, right? So, but this is true that it depends on the implementation of your partition routine. Okay, now this randomized algorithm is very simple. When we select the pivot at the random, I think I have shared the details how to find out the time complexity of a randomized quicksort. That is very much similar to the average case analysis of the quicksort. But what is the worst case behavior? What is the worst case behavior? Worst case behavior of the randomized quicksort.
Sir, it divides into n minus 1 is to 0 ratio of the array.
So, okay, that is the worst case, agreed. So what you say, what is the worst case complexity of the randomized quicksort?
N square.
That will be n square.
Yes, sir.
So that will be n square. Yes, it will be n square. So what is the then on which basis we can argue that randomized quicksort is better than the quicksort?
So majority of the time it will give n log n.
That means the average case is the better, right?
Yes, sir.
The average case is the better. So what about the best case? Is the best case is same as the conventional quicksort?
Yes, sir.
Best case is same as the best case of the randomized quicksort will be same as that. So what I say when I am saying or I am talking about a probabilistic algorithm, how I can say the probabilistic algorithm is better than the conventional quicksort? Now, what is the motivation of randomized quicksort?
Sir, if we can reduce the lower bound time complexity.
We can reduce the no. First, suppose somebody ask you to explain in terms of the worst case and best case. So what will be the randomized quicksort? You see, a typical quicksort also average case will be n log n, right? In randomized quicksort, what you are finding? Do you remember that what we have find? Randomized quicksort, what will be the complexity?
Sir, I think, sir, because of Las Vegas algorithm, sir.
No. If I'm why I should go for a randomized quicksort without going for a conventional quicksort?
Sir,
Do you remember? Do you
Because
remember what is?
it will always give correct output.
No, that is also correct.
sir,
No, what is
Probability of worst case is reduced.
yes, sir.
any of you have remembered that complexity? I have shown you a quicksort derivation, randomized quicksort derivation. Any of you remember the complexity?
Sir, n log
What
n
is the
in all
complexity?
cases, n
Huh?
log n in all cases, randomized quicksort for randomized quicksort, n log n in all cases, best case, average case, and worst case.
So what you can say that has a expected running time of order of n log n, right?
Yes, sir.
Then why it should be preferred? What's wrong with conventional quicksort?
Because in conventional quicksort, in worst case, the running time is n square, so it is taking more time than the
That means
randomized quicksort.
there is a very less probability that randomized quicksort is going to land into the worst case.
Yes, sir.
But what provision you have taken in randomized quicksort that it will never land into that case?
No, sir, never is not the case, but there are very less chances of it landing into the worst case.
But how to prove it? Agreed.
Maybe because the number of comparisons on inputs.
No.
Because
It is all about selecting a pivot element. You see, if you say average case of quicksort is same as the average case of the randomized quicksort. Worst case of the randomized quicksort is also same as the worst case of the conventional quicksort.
conventional quicksort.
And the best case of the randomized quicksort is also same as the best case of the quicksort. If that is the conclusion, definitely somebody will ask you, then why randomized quicksort? Why randomized quicksort? Because you are executing the same partition algorithm. That amount
So,
of work you are performing. Yes.
so when we are selecting the pivot at random, so we are selecting it uniformly from the whole list. So
Right.
even if they are in ascending or descending order, as we are not fixed with the pivot, we can select
Right.
from anywhere
Right.
uniformly. So it reduces the chance of the worst case.
So that is the argument. Is correct. Agreed. So it says that there is a very high probability that it will never enter into the worst case, or entering into the worst case, the probability is less. Otherwise, definitely this is a question why you are going for randomized quicksort. Because theoretically, if I derive, the complexity will be identical. That will be order of n log n. Okay. So a explanation may be like this. Suppose you are finding a instance, and for that instance, your quicksort behavior will be more appropriate in comparison to a conventional quicksort. Okay, but complexity is identical. Now you look into exercise problem. In a typical exercise problem, um, so if you remember, this is analyze the average case complexity of a quicksort algorithm, find a randomized algorithm for, oh, this is I have not discussed, a two-dimensional array. Okay. Analyze the randomized min code algorithm where two vertices are randomly selected and co-leased. So I'll just upload few exercise problems. Let me check whether it is in the last part of the randomized quicksort exercise. This is the another way I have discussed on that to prove to the complexity. So we may not use this one. No, the problems I have not uploaded. I'll upload the problem. Like you see, the question will be like this: give a Sherwood type of sorting algorithm. What you will write? Sherwood type of sorting algorithm. Which one you will write? A Sherwood type of sorting algorithm. Then the question is
Sir,
like,
is not any.
yes, please.
Sir, my doubt was, sir, is not any deterministic sorting algorithm is belongs to a Sherwood type algorithm? Like it is
Definite,
guaranteed to be sorted.
definitely it is yes. So that's why I say na, some of the question has only one line answer. But can I have a randomized algorithm which is Sherwood type of sorting algorithm?
Quicksort.
Quicksort. Okay, that's all. This is a one or two line answer. So then another question is that demonstrate empirically how the randomized quicksort compares with the deterministic quicksort. Empirically. So what you are supposed to write? Demonstrate empirically how randomized quicksort compares with deterministic quicksort. You are not supposed to derive the mathematical equation. If you write down the recurrence relation, okay, for both these cases, then with that argument you can explain. Are you getting me? Demonstrate empirically how randomized quicksort compares with deterministic quicksort. You know the recurrence relation for deterministic quicksort. Write that, argue that if these equations are very much identical to the randomized quicksort, then that ends with your comment. No need of deriving. Okay, no need of deducting that, finding the solution to the recurrence relation. Question I repeat again, demonstrate the empirically how randomized quicksort compares with the deterministic quicksort. Okay, now next, almost we finish with the randomized algorithm, and we'll be entering into a particular section, and that is your how to prove the algorithm to be correct. Okay, how to prove the algorithm to be correct, and sometimes this correctness of the algorithm is discussed during UG courses or how to prove the correctness of the algorithm. And it is a typical approach that whenever it is asked to write down a binary search, and immediately you'll find one question following that prove that the binary search to be correct. And maybe we'll not able to complete this section, but we can start the correctness. I have some problem on sharing. Okay, I'll be doing that one. Just wait for it. Yes, please, anyone can respond. Is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So we'll start with the correctness of the algorithm. It's a typical introductory section to prove the correctness. This is critical because when we try to write down the thesis and others, this is a good approach that after writing an algorithm, you need to prove the algorithm to be correct before you go for simulation or implementation. What exactly the correctness means? The algorithm produce the desired output with all possible input value. So this is the approach which is being used in programming contest. They ask to write down a program, and whenever you write down a program, in the question they supplied a set of inputs. People test by supplying those test of input and found that their algorithm is writing and working perfectly. So they submit that, okay, my program is correct, they submit the program. But whenever the result comes, they say your program is not correct. So people wonder, sir, that my program was working with the test data and now I have test whatever the test data is available with the question. Now I have got 0 marks or my program is proved to be wrong. So that is because you look into this particular word, all possible input value. I asked you to find out uh, solution to a quadratic equation. So what value I am accepting? A, B, C, correct? So you have written a program by calculating the discriminant v square minus 4ac square root of that, and you write down the program. Whenever I have supplied A, B, C with positive numbers and others, maybe that is best suitable for your equation, you are happy with that. If somebody enters A0, B0 and D, C something number or some input, your program is failed to respond. Right, your program is failed to respond. So this is the trick is used mostly in SEM ICPC contest to test the program. You will be given, any of you have heard of SEM ICPC? SEM ICPC. Any of you have heard of this thing?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes.
just have a check into those questions, SEM ICPC. You'll be finding question along with the test data. People submit and they say my program was working, but it is rejected. So that is the reason that the program which you are writing is not designed for all possible input, or there are some typical cases for which the algorithm fails that you have not considered. The same definition will be repeated all possible input or all possible instance when we are going to define a NP complete problem. You have developed a algorithm. When I say sometimes your algorithm is not going to provide solution to all the instances of the 0-1 knapsack problem. Maybe for few input data, your algorithm is correct, but you cannot solve all the 3-item knapsack problem or all the 4-item or all the n-item 0-1 knapsack problem. That means if you have written a algorithm of 0-1 knapsack problem and you are being asked to prove the correctness, if you are proving, then you can say, okay, for my 3 items, whatever the input you will supply, my algorithm is produced to desired output. Okay, so the correctness of the algorithm is comes from the theoretical computer science, and this is mostly the correctness is related to the functional correctness or the working of the program, or you sometimes you can say the behavior of the program. So correctness algorithm is asserted when it is said to be the algorithm is correct with respect to specification. So this you remember, this is the word which will be used for proving, because the problem statement is very simple. If you have written binary search, or if you have only asked prove that the binary search algorithm is correct with respect to a specification, right? So specification, either it is defined in the question or you will do the assumption and write down that your binary search algorithm is correct. So second definition, the functional correctness refers to input output behavior of the algorithm. That is, for each input it produces the expected output. It produces the expected output. This is to be proved. So when it comes to the total correctness of the algorithm, it again adds the two attribute, an algorithm which is for any correct input data that is stops, and second it returns the correct output is called totally correctness. So the question can be like that, prove that algorithm to be correct, prove that algorithm to be totally correct. So depending on that, you need to, it's a theoretical work or a theorem proving type of method. I think I told if a PhD students or a master students preparing thesis is proposing algorithm, and even if without implementing the algorithm, one can write the correctness prove complexity before going for implementation. He can do substantial amount of work, and we are repeating, I am repeating it again and again with expectation that you will reciprocate when you write down the thesis, but it is not reflecting properly. But always I have a good hope that because a good number of PhD students, they have taken the advantage to write it. They present their thesis in a much better way and got the appreciation. So that is the motivation to teach these things in details. So correct input data. So they split into two sub properties. First one is correct input data is the data which satisfy the initial condition of the specification. If I say A is a positive integer, B is a positive integer, this is the correct specification. If I say A is a integer positive in between 1 to 100, that is a specification. So correct output data is the data which satisfies the formal condition of the specification. Maybe if I am going to add two positive numbers, I am supposed to get another positive number. So this is a very simplified example. So then comes the partial correctness of the algorithm. So this is usually it is convenient because we have written the algorithm, but we do not know, or we do not have any scope that to test or to model all the possible inputs that may be encountered. Suppose you are not in a position to address all possible inputs that is going to come to the system. So you can say the algorithm is partially correct because the input modeling is not going to address all possible input. So the definition, an algorithm is partially correct if it satisfies the following condition. The first condition, if the algorithm is receiving the correct input data, stops, that is the result is always correct. Okay. If the algorithm comes to the goal state, it always produces a correct correction, and the partial correction does not guarantee the algorithm ever steps. That means, just like I have given you the example of try to find out the solution to a quadratic equation. Maybe I have asked you only it finds the real root and you have written. Then suppose I am supplying a ABC value which never come to the condition for the real root. So your algorithm may be written like this, it will never stop. So that is the partial correctness. But remember it, we are not relating here to the exceptional handling capability of an algorithm. That even if the algorithm is not going to reach the goal state, the algorithm terminates. So what is the verification process of the correctness of the algorithm, or how a algorithm proved to be correct? So the objective is to verify the algorithm the solve the problem for which it is designed. That means the objective has to be met. So this can be approached in two different ways, or the correctness proving has the two different way. First one is the experimental analysis or testing, which typically takes the help of the programming language and do the experiment. I mean, just like we are doing the simulation for bubble sort and insertion sort, then we can say the algorithm sorts the array, or after every sorting, all the output of insertion, bubble sort and selection sorts are compared, efforts are being plotted. So this we can say experimental analysis. So the formal analysis is proving, that is a theoretical approach to prove the algorithm to be correct, which is to be discussed in this section. So this is what I say explain the basic steps of the correctness by verification. So we test the algorithm with different instances. Again, I'll go back to the example that we try to implement the sorting with different type of input data. So the main advantage of approach is that it is simplicity, while main disadvantage is the fact that testing cannot cover always the possible instance of the input. I told you something about F-test and T-test. This is the motivation to do that, because when I am generating randomly 10 element and 20 element, so what are the possible 2-digit numbers? That is very large. So what is the guarantee that even if I test 10 times, 20 times, I may skip few 2-digit numbers which never comes through my random generator. So I cannot give a guarantee that all possible 2-digit numbers can be given and the algorithm will work correctly. So this is a small instance, maybe for sorting it is possible, but for taking the help of the random number, it does not guarantee that the all possible inputs are being generated or supplied to the program during testing. Another reason is that if you try to test all the possible inputs for a large a set of inputs, like suppose say 4-digit number, 5-digit number, 20-digit number, maybe a 64-bit prime number. So that space is very large. It is not possible to test all the inputs. Okay, so what we try to do without testing, we try to conclude. That means from a sample, we try to say that my algorithm has a correctness capability, or always it is going to produce. That is the reason we used the t-test or f-test to do that. Okay, so however, the experimental analysis allows sometimes to identify the situation when the algorithm does not work. Maybe some instances is like this, where you can find the limiting case of the algorithm. Maybe you can say when you try to compare the insertion sort and the quicksort, you have a finding that insertion sort is better. That means one behavior is going to come which is theoretically never expected. Theoretical analysis says the quicksort is always better, but experimental analysis says insertion sort is better for number of elements. So these are the motivations which we can do. So this is the formal analysis or the proving. The proving will be continuing this as uh, last slide or the formal analysis. This aims to work the proof the algorithm works for any instance of the input data. There we are doing with a sample. Now we are proving it is any instances. The advantage approach is that if it is rigorously applied to the guarantee of the correctness of the algorithm, the disadvantage that the difficult of finding a proof for more complex algorithms. That's why it's an open topic. Sometimes you are working in a new problem. None of the author has proved algorithm to be correct. Let us say you are working on a problem, you find out 5 different algorithms used by 5 different researcher, but you will never find or you will rarely find, you please note it that they have proved the correctness. Take a transaction paper on cloud, take a transaction paper on wireless network where good papers are published. Actually, those people are from different stream. They are from electronics, electrical, so they are also working on the same problem. So this is the uniqueness with computer science people that they can prove a algorithm to be correct, then they go for the simulation study. Very rarely, I'm telling you, very rarely, those are PhD students. This is very rarely you will find that correctness is being proved or addressed. A lot of simulator, lesson data, talk about simulator, take the data to get the result. So in this case, what we try to do, the algorithm is decomposed into sub-algorithms and the analysis is focused on the simpler sub-algorithm when we are going to discuss with a complex algorithm. On the other hand, the formal approach could be lead to the better understanding of the algorithm when we try to go for a theoretical analysis. So what is exactly the formal analysis or main step for the formal analysis? So here the main step for the formal analysis or correctness is are the following 3 steps. One is the identification of the property of the input data. Identification of the property which is sometimes say the input is applied to the output data, that is called post condition. So we on a simple word we say we prove the precondition, we prove the post condition. First we need to talk about the precondition, then we need to talk about the post condition. If both are found to be correct, then we prove starting from the precondition, executing the action specified by the algorithm, and that produces the post condition. So precondition implied the post condition is need to be proved. So this is just a pictorial representation. So the wished before algorithm is the black box algorithm X, and we ascertain before the algorithm X, that is precondition, and we prove the post condition, then algorithm is proved to be correct. That means a precondition implies the post condition. So we'll continue with this in the next class. And I just want a feedback. If you are joining for the Friday, I can say we will not take the class on the Friday, and we may be compensated any other holiday, or maybe in the morning, the first half. Okay, so we'll finish the correctness maybe next class. On the mid of the next class, the correctness will be completed. Then will be moved to complete your NP complete portion. Okay.
Sir,
Yes.
sir, I joined late. So, is it just a contest or is it a course and a contest both?
No, the context is the optional. Context is the optional. First, try to listen to the details because it's a AI paradigm. What they are going to offer, because we got a lab from the Huawei, which is to be used by you people when the any application you are developing. In addition to a boot camp, always in a camp there is a contest because they try to distribute some awards. So they try to first who is be doing something will get the award. There are cash awards. There are I mean in terms of kind also. So it's not a compulsory. It is not a compulsory.
Okay, sir.
Okay. But please do register, please. I mean, even if you are missing few hour lecture, at least Saturday is available with you. So try to utilize that one. And I think second half of the Friday also you can manage. So any faculty member Friday is having class. Maybe it is officially also notified to the department. I can have a talk with them. Okay. So okay, tomorrow we'll meet in the lab to discuss the data structure portions. I mean the advanced data structure we are going to start, right? And if any of the student also try to listen to the voluntarily, they may join. If I get a request, then I can share the team code with them. Okay. Okay, then thank you. You
Hello,
register.
sir.
Yes, yes, please.
Sir,
Bolo
sir,
Susri.
I had a doubt in the. Yes, sir. Actually, I had a doubt in the primality testing.
Hmm.
Are we
Yes, please.
supposed to add the randomization effect in that? Like, I couldn't get it. Like, if I write a program, like I'm running a loop from 1 to 10 to try now given number is prime or not. So I think my program will 100% say it. So how are we supposed to add the randomization effect in that program? I couldn't get that.
Okay, do you have that algorithm which you are writing, or I'll show you the randomized algorithm? You refer to the slide, the randomized algorithm is written there. I used to take the algorithm and write in Sahani's code. If you are finding that is uploaded, you just check it. There is a randomized algorithm. Randomized algorithm for primality testing, or else I'll be sharing again tomorrow. And the input data or the set of prime numbers, that is a URL is available. That is also shared.
Yes, sir, that I got.
That you got. No, okay. Just you look into the algorithm there. Actually, we try to do it by generating a random number. That is a primality testing. I am testing a number to be random, but maybe my probability algorithm tests a prime number to be a composite also. I think you have not gone through the algorithm. It's a very simple algorithm. I feel you have not gone through. Otherwise, this is a very straightforward algorithm.
Sir,
Yes.
sir, I could not do one part of the randomized thing, that is in majority element. Show
Okay.
that the probability of missing majority element is 0.00097. That part I did not get how to do.
Okay. That is the correctness of the algorithm. You can go for reverse. That means a particular array contains a majority element. How to test it? Just like prime number, you have to look into a data set which has a majority element or opposite.
That's
If you have a different array of majority element, you are going to test it. But all the inputs you are supplying with majority element, right? All the
yes, sir.
all the input you are supplying, or all the array you are supplying with majority element, but the output of the algorithm is like this. Even if you supplied all the majority elements are there, it reports is that 0.98932 is the correctness, and for other things it is not saying, it is not correct. So that probability value is mentioned in the algorithm. Got it?
Sir, that probability value depends on the
Input.
size of input.
Yes.
So it cannot be 0.0097 for everyone.
Not for everyone. That's why I'm saying now how to ascertain that value. That means with a guide, if you are writing a randomized algorithm, but you have to take such a precaution that for any instances, the success ratio is 0.9. Otherwise, you will not recommend it for real world application. Got it? It indirectly says, is it possible to design an algorithm where the success ratio is 0.9? So primality, what you are finding, you just implement one of such algorithms so that it will be clear. Suppose primality, if you are finding 0.89, some people are finding 0.92. Okay. So that shows the quality of the algorithm. That is majority of the time it is going to find out the correct answer. But theoretically it may be finding, but all implementation it may not found. You see, in a primality testing, just now I have checked. So here I am generating a number R uniformly in between 1 to n minus 1. When I try to generate a reminder, I use a mode function, the given number n, let us say prime, with number r. Okay. I have that algorithm on the page number 63 of the second slide, randomize algorithm 2. Okay.
So,
Yes. Bolo, Aditya.
so yes, sir. The primality testing algorithm that you shared, it will tell the probability of a composite number. Is it prime or
No,
not?
no,
It will not tell the number is prime or not.
no. So see, that's why I say the input to this algorithm is prime, right? Just supply the prime numbers as the input. All
Sir,
the
it will
100
tell
number.
100%. Sir,
No,
if we supply
no,
the
no. It will not tell 100%. You try it. It
sir,
will
I
never say
tried it.
100%. How come?
Sir, because first of all, the factors we are generating factor from 1 to n-1, right?
Which,
Randomly.
yes.
Yes. If we omit the 1, because 1 will be divided, 1 will divide every number,
Right.
even the prime number or composite number. So so if we try
No, are you, no, listen. Don't go theoretically. Are you taking the help of rand function to generate a number
yes, sir.
in
Yes,
between
sir. I
1
did
to n
that.
minus? Okay.
Yes, sir.
What will be the finding? All numbers are reported to be prime.
Yes, sir.
No, it will never
100%.
happen.
Sir, because
100%. Okay,
because
I'll
I will
check your code.
yes, sir. Sir, I will tell because sir, even okay, sir, for number to be prime, it should be divided by 1 or itself. And in
Right.
a random generator, if a prime number, if we give it a prime number, let's say 101.
Okay.
Sir, though the only two factors that it will divide will be 1 and 101.
Right.
And we are generating a random number from 2 to n-1. Means 2 to 100. Any number from 2 to 100 will not be divided by 101. So it will not be computed in count.
No. In a uniform distribution, when you are generating, I would like to see your function and what it generates. Very simple thing. You
Yes, sir,
simply
I will share.
you will share the code with me tomorrow so that I can check. If I am finding, sometimes it might be due to the randomness you are deployed. Okay.
Okay,
But
sir.
if you will do the uniform distribution, definitely you will find one. Not for all the cases. Maybe you are doing 80 cases, you'll be finding 30 to 40 cases, one will come. Because it depends on the nature of the random number, na? Because
Okay,
we are
sir.
deliberately not generating the number. Okay. This is
Okay,
the
sir.
tested one, but the success ratio is quite high. Maybe 0.9 something is the result what we always expect. Okay. Okay then. So maybe on Friday we'll have a talk. Then sorry, I mean Thursday. If you are joining, majority of the people are joining on the Friday. Second half I will not take the class on the Friday. Okay. ठीक है. Thank you.